It's 7:32, so I think it's time we called the meeting to order. So I'd like to just welcome everyone to the RESC Edmonton Center's regular monthly meeting. I'm Jay Lavender. I'm Vice President of the Edmonton Center, and I will be your meeting host this evening as our President Tom Owen has been called away on business tonight. So I'm the guy. The RESC Edmonton Center respectfully acknowledges that we are residing on Treaty 6 territory, traditional lands of the First Nations and Métis. I would also like to encourage everyone maybe today to take a moment just in recognition of our Indigenous veterans on this Indigenous Veterans Day. So we have a really good lineup, always one of my favorite meetings on members night, but first we'll just go through a little bit of center business. So we'll start with the meeting minutes from our last month's meeting on October 18th. They have been posted on the center's OneDrive, and I just open up the floor. Are there any errors and omissions to those minutes? All right, then hearing none, Sukrit, I think I see you there. I do see you there. Would you want to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that, what do I say again? I keep forgetting. I would like to make a motion for the minutes of the meeting for October. Would anyone else like to second it?
Abdur seconds.
Abdur seconds.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay. All members in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Motion carried. Okay. Good stuff. Thanks, Sukrit. So I'm going to hopefully do all this right. I'm going to just share my screen so everyone can see our agenda for tonight. So it is a members night tonight, and we have a really good lineup actually of presenters tonight. So our first presenter, and I'm hoping he's ready. Oh, I see that he is ready. So Giampiero is a DSLR astrophotographer, and he's put together a presentation for us that talks a little bit about his journey throughout astrophotography using DSLR. So I am going to do my best to share, to make you a co-host. Giampiero, you are now a co-host, so that should allow you to share your screen.
Thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. So I've been doing astrophotography for pretty much 5 years now. And I started almost exactly 6 years ago, Black Friday. So I bought my Canon 6D. And I bought this mostly because I was reading Alan Dyer, right, who recommended it. This was the time when we didn't have the mirrorless ones and all that stuff. So it sounded like it was a good camera, so I bought that. And I liked it also because it's a full frame. So a bit later, about maybe a year later, I bought my first sky tracker, so the iOptron. And then I started heading to the Wilson Cooley Observatory so I could start taking some pictures. And in terms of software, I started with Lightroom. And then I just bought the monthly subscription to Photoshop, because Lightroom wasn't enough. Like you couldn't stack things. So I quickly realized it was quite limited. I suppose it's good for finishing touches, but to stack data, not so good. Now, my first results were, of course, hideous. So this is my Pleiades sometime in, I don't know, early 2017, maybe. I can't quite remember. They're out of focus. There's no nebulosity. I don't remember where I took this from, maybe even from the city, but quite horrible. I gave a shot at M13 with the Rokinon 135 lens. I'd heard good things about this, so I just borrowed it. It's pretty bad, but you can see that cute little galaxy here. I forget what its name is, NGC something, but at least you could see it. So I was happy about that. But obviously, it's only a 135 millimeter, not nearly enough resolution to see anything other than a blown out core there. May long weekend, went to with my wife. We went to Pincher Creek, Waterton, and again I had rented the same lens, and I took a picture of the Milky Way. We were actually quite lucky that time, we were told, because normally it's quite windy there and the weather's quite bad at that time, but we got a couple of nice clear nights. So again, me just playing around with things. And I even caught my very first shooting star. So I like this one. I think this was the spring of 2017. And this was my first time-lapse video. That's just Phoenix, Arizona. I can't remember the name of this place. It's near Tortilla Flats or Dead Man's Mine, something like that. And I made a time lapse. It'll look weird because I'm keeping the stars centered, so the Earth is going to turn. But it's a short video. And that's all I did over there. Obviously, it's incredibly light polluted. I couldn't get much done. And then I moved to Edmonton in the summer of 2017. So this is from Elk Island. I was able to catch an aurora here. And then I finally started understanding that I needed more integration time, right? If I want to take the good pics. So I did buy at this point, I bought the 135 millimeter, and I took 2 hours of data on the North America Nebula. You can see that I still wasn't taking calibration frames, no flats. Flats would have done a much better job of evening out the field, right? But I was happy because I get lots of nebulosity. My stars were much better. So I'm getting there, right? And then that summer, the May long weekend of 2018, we went to Jasper. And this time I had rented a 20 millimeter Sigma Art, the f1.4 lens. It's a lovely lens, a bit expensive, I guess, about $1,000. That's just the Milky Way, and it's only, what, 450 seconds. So what is that? I can't count. I teach math, by the way, and I think a couple of my students are here tonight. But anywho, 13 and a half minutes, I guess. 1.5 times 9. So not a lot, but again, my focus is a lot better. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I had also modified the camera at this point. I sent it to HuTech, so it's a bit expensive. It was about 500 Canadian, but I knew that they would do a really good job, so did that. I then finally, at the same place, I got one of my better pictures. It's a composition, of course. This is from Lake Annette, the night of maybe the 20th. And the park rangers did come to tell us it was time to close, but I explained what I was doing. They weren't nice. They let me and my wife stay. So that's, yeah, just obviously the summer Milky Way with a galactic horse in the middle and then reflected. It is a composition. I think they used this picture for this year's RASC general meeting. I saw it on their website, so. Also, thanks to Orla Aquist, who's here tonight, I see, and James McNeese as well. I borrowed the 120 millimeter refractor, so I tried my hand at the moon and also Orion. So you can see the horrible, obviously, chromatic aberration, but I really like that you can actually see the nucleus. This would have been unguided. It's probably a second or just a few seconds, but I tried it out. I thought I'd do that. Anywho, I wasn't progressing as fast as I wanted to, so I thought I should take some kind of workshop or something So this gentleman here on the right, I don't know if you know him. He gave a workshop in Didsbury, April 21st, in fact, from the date of the picture on my phone. And I don't know, he reminds me of someone. I mean, I don't know, we look a bit similar there. But anyway, he's the better looking guy. That's, yeah, Alan Dyer, if you don't know, but I'm sure you do. So he also gave us basically a manual for DSLR photography. And so I started reading it, right? I read it over and over and over. Lots of information. I think the PDF is some 400 or 500 pages long. I didn't read the whole thing, obviously, but I pretty much started reading from the processing bit. That's what interested me. Summer of 2018, I went to my hometown in Italy. Just a little Arches picture that summer. And I like this picture too because, well, I like compositions, right? Another one, another Milky Way composition from a town near my hometown. Again, summer 2018. I then reprocessed this 2 years later and I turned it into this. So as I got better, I hope that that's a better picture. That's just a satellite on the, that's just a satellite there, nothing special. It's not a meteor, but that's Jupiter, of course. And again, the summer Milky Way. So then finally last year, about a year and a half ago, I finally bought my upgrade, which is all of those pieces that you see there. So I've got the telescope. It's just a little refractor. The mount, it's the Ioptron Gem 45. And then just a few months later, I bought the ASI Air, the package there. So I got the little 30 millimeter guide scope, the little guide cam, the 120 millimeter mono, and I got the ASI Air Pro. So, and I even wrote the cost here of all this. To me, that's just a modest rig. It's nothing crazy like what Ron Bretcher might have, or Trevor Jones. Now it seems that every day he's buying something new. I need to be a YouTuber. That's what I need to do. But he's really good, of course. But anyways, this is a modest rig, but I'm trying my best to get the most out of it, of course. So last year, I took this picture of M31. This is about 10 hours of data. I know that the colors aren't great on the edges. It's a bit too, I don't know, purple. What color is that? But I like this. I was able to show a bit of H2 regions. The stars are quite pinpoint, and there's even little fuzzies here and there of galaxies that are a lot further away than M31. I could do a better job at this, I'm sure I could. The nucleus isn't great and all that, but I like this picture. And the funny thing is that my subs were only 2 minutes, most of them, and a few 3 minutes here and there. Jay, can you tell me how much time I've got left? I'm almost done actually, but just to be sure I don't go over. So after that, seeing everybody's pictures on AstroBin, I started joining Facebook groups like Mastering PixInsight. I even joined PixInsight for Beginners and a different one, but I got booted out. I think I got booted out because I posted about a boy who was sick and wanted to buy a telescope. So I was saying to donate for that, but obviously it was inappropriate. I realized about the internet that it's a very undemocratic place, right? So whoever runs a Facebook group is God and they decide whatever they want. So, but that's all good. So I did start learning about PixInsight about a year ago. I bought Rogelio Bernal Andreo's book, Mastering PixInsight. He's obviously world class. And then I also bought Warren Keller's book. So they explain the same stuff, but obviously in different ways and with different priorities. So I'm still trying to go through those books. I'm watching tutoring videos and all that stuff. This year, I'll just show you my latest pictures and then I'm done. So this I took from Drumheller this year was the Perseids, but that's obviously a composition. So I got the foreground. It's about, I can't remember, 4 to 8 pictures for the hoodoos. And then about 20 minutes for the stellar background. And then it's about 24 meteors that it took me about 4 hours to capture those. So I was there all night, but was well worth it. There were people around too, snapping away and chatting. So it made the time go away quite quickly. My second biggest project is the Veil Nebula this summer. I think it's 7.5 hours. I know it's not great. It wasn't easy to get the Oxygen 3, the blue, to come out. So, but anyways, processing takes such a long time that at some point I kind of get tired. And I say that's good enough for now. Someday, of course, you can always revisit. The data's still there. And this is my very last project right here, the one that I like the most, just the Heart and Soul Nebula this fall. I did use StarNet to control the stars. And this is about, I think it's 11 hours of data. But again, it's all with my DSLR, the Sharp Star 76 and the Equatorial Mount. Now for the future, I am thinking of getting a dual band filter. I could get maybe the L Extreme, although I hear that the ITIS NBZ might be a bit better, fewer stellar halos. So I can image from home, not from my backyard. I've got too many trees, but perhaps from the driveway. The ASI Air Pro makes it so easy. It's all on your iPad. It's really, really nice, really convenient. Once you've worked out all the kinks, right? I would like to maybe do an Orion Mosaic, although I don't got time for that because I'm very lucky that my wife lets me go once a month when possible because of our little children. But I'd like to do that. But I've calculated it would take me some 80 hours to do. A lot of time. I'll be happy with a good M42 picture one of these days. Maybe get a bigger scope. Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm poor. Read, write, educate myself, watch more videos. And, there's a lot of cool people out there doing all these things. Trevor Jones, Sean Nielsen, Dylan O'Donnell. He's very funny if you watch his videos. Sometimes inappropriate, but he's very fun. There's Queeve the Lazy Geek, Chuck Ayub. He's gotten multiple APODs, astronomy pictures of the day. He even caught a nova in Cassiopeia. Adam Block, he's probably the best that there is. Now he's expensive as well. You can, buy his subscriptions or his what's it called? Horizons is the more advanced one. I forget what the name of the basic package is. It's like $180. Helena Cochran from Scotland, Galactic Hunter, Astrostace, Amy, Astro. There's lots of people that do cool stuff. And as I told Anwar before, I'd love to find somebody to go out and shoot stars. So normally I do go to Tollfield. It's seems to be the best place. The Black Nugget staging area would be just as well. I used to go to Elk Island. Again, as someone said before, the sky is just not that good unless you're shooting just to the east, but I'll shoot whatever, right? So, and that's that. So thank you, Anwar, for telling me those two names. I'll have to go on Facebook. We'll have to find them. Can you tell me who they were again?
For sure. I'll just type it in the comments there.
Thank you. And I'll take a screenshot. That's all I've got. I don't know if anybody has any questions. So, yeah, the thing I need in this hobby is just time, more time.
Okay, thank you, Giampiero. Appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a comment I'd like to make. That photograph you had of M31. That's the deepest picture I think I've ever seen done in recent time. That's you can see that the M1 Messier 110 is right on the edge of the galaxy, and I've only seen that in my life about once or twice, where the galaxy goes out almost to the M210 Messier 210 or 110 there, and there you can actually almost see a bridge between the two, although they're not connected. But I've only seen that about once or twice in my life.
You mean this?
Yes. The connect between there is very. Most pictures only show it about 2/3 of the way out.
Yeah, there's a lot better pictures. You can find a lot better pictures, but thank you. I can't show you. I used to have a full resolution on Astrobin, but I had to remove it because I only have the free account. I could probably find it if you give me a moment, but I'm sure we have to move on. Maybe later.
Yeah, or you can post it even on Facebook account or something like that too.
Rask?
Giampiero. Yep.
Yeah, okay, sure,
For
I
sure.
will. All right.
I see Alistair had raised his
Yeah.
hand. Alistair?
I'll get in touch with you later about the spot out by Towfield, but my main question is for the 20 millimeter. What do you do to focus?
Live view, always.
Your eyes must be really good because mine are, even with a 10 times loop on the live focus, I find it tough.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I can see that. It isn't always great, but the nice thing about the 20 millimeter, it's wide field. So if the stars aren't perfect, I don't care too much, right? If they're just a little bit off, right? But yeah, you're right. Focus, I don't even have a Bahtinov mask. I don't have the electronic autofocuser. I do it by eye, and I'm generally okay with it. Although I do use the routine on the ASI Air Pro. There's a focusing one, and I look at the numbers, right? So I just try to get them as low as possible. But with the 20 millimeter, you're right. All you get is live view. I don't know what else,
Okay, thank you.
right? Yeah, this was with a 20 millimeter. So the stars are pretty good here. I'd have to show you, a zoom, but I'm pretty happy.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Giampiero, thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Really nice images there. And I'll get you to, I think you can unshare your screen there.
I'm not sure, but if you just, well, if
Yeah,
yeah,
I
you're the host,
think
so
I
you're-
just did there, yeah, so.
there you go.
Okay, all right. So, there's probably everybody there. So our next presenter on a do-it-yourself solar charge battery box is our hands-on guy, Dave Mussel. Hopefully, Dave, you can share your screen. I think you're muted there, Dave, as well. Oh, there we go.
Getting all the pieces fit together here. I'll just start the presentation and then everybody will be able to see it here. So I'll press play. Can everybody see that?
Yep, you bet.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is just a short presentation. This is it's a really just about a problem that a lot of us who do astrophotography or who do imaging in remote settings have, which is how do we provide power to our telescopes, because we use some electricity to do that. And it's less of a problem for people who just are doing visual, because they really only have to run a mount and maybe a few other lightweight appliances, maybe a dew heater or something like that, if they have their telescope so equipped. But for astrophotography, there's a little bit more demand, actually significant more demand for electricity. So I've been wanting to go out to remote sites, and we have been doing that. But I've always had to have AC power to run this rig. And so what I wanted to do is break free from that impediment and be able to go anywhere I wanted. And so Carol and I like to go out to some dark spots, both in the here in Canada and also in the States. And how nice to be able to not worry about AC power and to be able to have a battery box. So quick presentation on what I built here and how it works and what the choices were and why I went through what I chose. And so I'll just share that with you now. So, so these are my electrical needs. This is the little rig I've got here, just a 5-inch refractor with the mount, and everything is kind of listed there. But it's the typical stuff that you would have if you're doing astrophotography. So there's a dew heater, probably I have to power a laptop and a few other things. And at remote sites where you don't have AC power, you need enough battery power to run all that. So that's what this battery does. So I wanted about 4 to 5 amps of power to be able to run that all night long. I normally draw about 3 amps with my stuff, but when the dew heaters are on and other things are plugged in and turned on, and the telescope is slewing and the maximum power is being drawn by the mount, it comes in at around 4.5 amps. And so I generally think about the demand for this rig as around 5 amps basically, continuous, assuming that maybe temperature is going to drop my power on battery. Ultimately, what happens is that you don't always have. You might be out for more than one night. So I wanted also to make sure that I have enough power to do 2 or 3 nights. So that was another design specification. And finally, I wanted some options for recharging that weren't just related to, say, taking it to an AC power source of something, some kind. So I wanted to be able to charge it on solar power if possible. So that was another option. And so those are basically what I wanted in this battery box. Some way to have sustainable or continuous power for a long duration trip if I am not able to get to a power source. So I landed on lithium iron phosphate for a number of reasons. This is battery chemistry that's quite popular right now. You can get a lot of batteries in different sizes that use this chemistry. And it has a lot of advantages and it has a few disadvantages. And I'll just go through them quickly here. So the advantages are it's really light compared to lead acid. So less than half the weight of a lead acid battery. Long service life, so you can get around between 4,000 and 6,000 charge cycles, sometimes more, usually more. That's the word on the street. And that's compared to 200, 250 charge cycles for lead acid. And if that's how you calculate your costs, like how often you have to replace the technology, lithium iron phosphate comes in actually very reasonably priced compared to lead acid. Although they are more expensive, but if you consider the life cycle cost, it's less. These also enable you to access 80% of the electrons that you put in, as opposed to lead acid, which you can only draw them down by about 50%, or usually operationally less than that before you drop the voltage below levels that are safe for the battery health. And then another really important factor is safety. So if you're recharging these, it's literally impossible to have an explosion with this battery. Now, other types of battery can be prone to overheating or other kinds of accidents, or if you damage the battery, like say with lithium ion batteries, you can wind up with a runaway overheating situation, which you've probably seen the YouTube videos of people on planes with these batteries, and they explode or they cause fire. That doesn't happen with lithium iron phosphate, so they're very safe. They have built-in protections to add additional layers of safety. So they're equipped with low temperature and high temperature protections, overcharging protections, and that's all thanks to a battery management system. It's a board, it's a printed circuit board that is built right into the battery case. Another thing is that they can be mounted in any orientation. They're not, this battery that I have is, it's got packs in it, like a set of battery packs that don't matter which way they're pointed, up, down, sideways, doesn't matter. And they have low self-discharge as well. So if you charge them up, you can leave them for a long time and they don't diminish. Their charge does not drop over time as quickly as it does with lead acid. So those are all advantages in terms of for those of us using them for astrophotography or remote power for anything, camping or whatever. Disadvantages are they cost a little more when you buy them. That's the initial outlay. And then finally, you can't recharge lithium iron phosphate in temperatures below, well, technically below 0 degrees, but for safety, don't do it below 5 degrees. And so that's a bit of a limitation, but most of the time we can avoid that problem. And some of the newer batteries that are out there have built-in heaters so that if they detect a temperature below that safe level, they warm themselves up, and that enables them to take a charge safely if you have them hooked up to a voltage supply. This is the battery I purchased. It's a Renogy 100 amp hour smart battery. It's called a smart battery because it has that battery management system in it. And so it's got some pretty cool features. A lot of batteries like this on the market now. They're all pretty competitive, I think, but you have to be careful too. There are some cheap, low quality knockoffs out there, so you got to be careful what you buy. This one comes with high and low temperature protection during the discharge part of the cycle. So if the temperature goes too high or too low, the battery shuts down, and so you can't discharge it and cause damage to it if you're outside the temperature range that it's good within. And then there's also a low and high voltage limiter built into the battery management system that protects it during charging as well. Battery activation key, that's a little dongle basically you plug into the top of the battery and allows you to put it into shelf mode, which is the long-term storage mode. And that's where, if you have to put it on the shelf for the season or something, you can do that. And also while you're transporting it, it disables the terminals. So if anything came in contact with the terminals of this battery, if it was not in a case, that activation key would prevent an accident from happening, like you drop a tool on it or something. You're not going to have a short circuit. So I mentioned that. They were on sale recently. They may still be, actually. So the price I got mine at was $749, and that included free delivery. And I mentioned about the low temperature charging protection. This battery does not have that, so, but there are others that do. You need an enclosure when you have a battery like this, and so I landed on this toolbox, which comes from Milwaukee. It's the compact pack-out system that they've got. And the idea for this came from Chad Sullivan from Patriot Astro. The guy, he's got a really great website, YouTube channel, lots of information there, especially about NINA and all kinds of things related to astrophotography. And he's got a battery box that he designed, and I just copied that pattern, and so you're seeing it now. So I like it because it's really a sturdy battery box. It's got lots of room inside, just enough room actually for the battery, and with enough headroom above for all your electronics. And it's got a good handle, a good solid latch, and it was on sale, so I bought it. So when I finished building it, this is what I got. I got a box that's waterproof to contain the battery. I've got solar charging and AC charging as options. I've got isolated charging circuits so that if it's charging, the circuits are not active on the load side. I have a problem.
All good there, Dave?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Thanks, sorry, I was clicking and I was just getting beeps. I also mentioned that it's got fuses inside there, so you do need to protect the wiring. So it's a good idea to have all of the connections, the wire connections between the points where you have the outlets protected with fuses. So I do have that. And there are 4 12-volt outputs on it and 2 5-volt USB outputs for charging things like phones or iPads. And then there's a battery meter in there that allows me to monitor the health of the battery. This battery with 100 amp hours actually delivers at least 25 hours of run time. So 2 full or 3 full nights of imaging. And I was only able to draw the battery down to 70% even with 3 nights out. So I think there's maybe quite a bit more capacity there, although it's very dependent on the outdoor temperatures. And so this is what it looks like once you open the lid. There's a black plywood panel there, just a panel of plywood covered with vinyl, and 2 switches and the USB power there plus the meter. So one switch controls whether or not I switch between solar power and AC power for charging. And the other switch is the mode switch, which switches between the load mode, which is where you've got your stuff plugged into it, you're using the juice, or you're charging. It's either one or the other, it can't be both. And so those are those simple automotive three-way switches that are on, off, and on. So a 3-position switch. And that's the USB charging port, as I mentioned. Well, the battery meter is a really cool thing. They cost $35 or something on eBay or Amazon, and they give you all of these measures or parameters on the battery, which are all really helpful to know to monitor the health of the battery, the state of charge, and other things like the internal resistance, which is an important indicator of the health of the battery. So that's that. The front panel has got a couple of ports on it, one for the solar panel charging, and the other is for charging with a wall outlet. And then the lower, the other side of the box is I installed 2 ports that have 2 Anderson power poles on them, each one delivering 12 volts. So that's all that. I'll just skip through this quickly here. And this is on the inside. So if you lift that panel that I showed you the picture of, this is what the wiring looks like. There's, first thing you'll see is the fuse block. And then that's the back side of the meter, the battery multifunction meter. And there's a solar charge controller there, just a very small, low wattage charge controller, but it works. It's MPPT, so it's efficient. And then the shunt, which is part of the metering system. So this is something that enables the meter to detect voltages and current draw. And that's connected to the negative bus bar. And so that's just another, you can buy these parts really cheaply. I've got a price list at the end of the presentation. And it shows where everything can be found as well. And then there's a couple of switches here. This is the back side of them, of course. The mode switch and the charging switch. And then there's the battery down below inside the box, surrounded by some foam to keep it protected mechanically. And then the battery and meter wires. So the wires from the meter go right to the battery and they go through connectors. So I can disconnect that panel and lift it out. And then I can lift the battery out if I need to do that. And then some charging circuit outputs. So yeah, that's basically it. I've got it behind here. I'll pop it out here for you to have a look. And if you have any questions, you can ask me to point to stuff. The upgrades I'm considering would be to add a 100 amp DC output for an inverter. So if I wanted to run an AC appliance of any kind, I could do that. And that would be nice to have a fused circuit off the battery that would enable that. Easy to do. I do have, you can get automotive inverters with a single or even 2 plugins on them that, as long as you keep the current load pretty low. And the battery would run those. Some people add LED lights to these things. I'm not going to necessarily do that. You know, we always got headlamps on and stuff, so we don't really need external lights of other types. Clock display might be handy, although again, you know, how much cost and complexity is there involved in that. A temperature probe would be a good idea. Sometimes it's nice to know what the temperature is doing, or at least what the temperature in the battery box is. And then this battery can be connected to a Bluetooth powered battery monitor. So you can see on your phone without having to go over to the battery and examine the meter there. You can see what the battery was doing. And then for charging a laptop or running a laptop, it might be nice to have a 19.5 buck converter for charging. So here's the price list, and I'd be very happy to provide this to anybody who wants to build one of these. What's interesting here is that you know, you could spend, say, $200 or $300 on a lead acid battery, but if you spend $1,000 and you put all this stuff together, you've got several nights worth of power, and basically the world is your oyster. You can go anywhere with your rig and set it up and have power for astrophotography or imaging. So that's it for the slideshow. I'm just going to exit from here, and I'll stop sharing my screen, and that'll activate my camera again, and then I'll pull this battery box out for you to have a look if you want to see the thing in the flesh. While I'm doing that, are there any questions about what I've shared?
We had the Brahm said they're had raised their hand. Rick, Susan?
Where's my hand?
Sorry, it was a mistake. We had
Oh.
raised our hand.
A false hand raise. Okay, no worries. Anybody else? Denny?
Okay. Yeah, just to let you know, I got two of those. I got one 65 amps and I got 100 amps. One I got through Amazon, and I found out that there's a guy in Slave Lake, or I think he's in Lac La Biche. It's called Alberta Lithium. He buys them by the hundreds. He's a doctor and he has a side business, and he buys those things for his toys, and he realized that a lot of people wanted it. So 100 amps deep cycle, because they do come in 3 different mode. One is a car, so you can get a lithium ferrite iron phosphate for car. There's another one for deep cycle, and there's one which is just a regular, like you have, which is just a straight out battery. So I have a deep cycle one that I bought from him, and it's good to -20. It doesn't have to heat up. It has protection, so you can't charge it below 0. So it doesn't matter if you put a charger on it. If it gets below 0, it shuts it off. He has the new ones that he has now are deep cycle, heated, Bluetooth, everything is built in. And when I bought mine, they were $350.
Oh, that's amazing.
And yeah, and that's the reason you get them that cheap, is because the thing is, you pre-order, you put your name, you pay for it, and it can take 2 or 3 months to get it. And he ships it right to your house. That's included in the cost. So it was I think it was $385 in total for 100 amps. And I have 2 boxes just the same way you do. I got one, mine is in a different box, DeWalt, not Milwaukee or Makita. And same thing, I build it that way for that. And I can do pretty well 4 full nights with 100 amps. My system only use about somewhere around 25 to 35 watts per hour. So you can go a long time with them.
Denny, can you post some of that contact information maybe for that guy on maybe the Astro list?
He has a website. It's simply just type in Alberta Lithium, and it will come up. And you'll see it's like Slave Lake with a boat and everything else, and he has all the batteries in there. It's very simple, very straightforward. It's not like a major dealer and everything else. All he does is lithium battery.
Cool.
And the prices are really good.
Good stuff. Okay, we have a few more folks here with their hands up. Martin Connors.
Yeah, hi, interesting presentation. I'm just wondering, I know you don't have a thermometer in there yet, but in the morning, if you open it up, has the battery heated up? I mean, it's got 5 amps going through it, and the battery does have internal resistance. So does it sort of keep itself warm?
No.
No.
Yeah, I don't know if it does or not. I've never noticed this battery get warm either in charging or discharging. So it always seems to be at a constant temperature. Yeah.
I mean, it would be good if it did get warm, because then it would help with this not recharging when it's cold. But I guess if it doesn't, it doesn't. Thanks.
I think the batteries that are equipped with cold temperature charging have a heater built into them, and I don't think they generate enough exothermal heat from the charging process to overcome that temperature problem. So they need the additional supplement of heat from some, like basically like a battery blanket type of thing.
Yeah, just to mention, just to add that to that, I called a guy in like La Biche about it. It's about a 15 to 18 watt, depending how big the battery is, that it uses about 1 amp, and it's actually pulse modulated, so it's really efficient. So it comes on, heats it up, keeps it at about 5 degrees, and if you put it in an insulated box, it will never go below 0, and it doesn't take a lot of power. So that's how they do it.
So the Lac La Biche guy, are the smart ones that have the heater built in too for that price?
Yeah, he has
Wow.
ones with the heater built in. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
thank
it's
you.
called. I think it's called Extreme. Like it's for the winter, so you don't have to worry about it. You can put solar panel, and if it goes below 0, the battery actually keeps himself warm. Like you said, put it in an insulated box, and doesn't use a lot of power.
And Andy's
Amazing.
posted the website there to the chat for everyone's use there. So let's keep going here. Glenn Hawley's got his hand raised. Glenn.
Yeah, can the thing be charged from your vehicle?
Yes, it can.
Like if you're driving down the road, you haven't seen AC in a week, plug it into the vehicle as you go to your next site?
Yeah, you can. You can just plug in a lighter, one of those cigarette lighter connectors. The voltages that are generated by your alternator are close to the voltages needed to recharge the battery on a lithium iron phosphate. So it does work, but it's not going to reach 100% charge. I'm not totally sure about that, but that's my understanding. And it's not going to hurt it because, like I was mentioning, the battery management system protects the battery from voltages that are outside the range of the chemistry of the battery. So a lot of them require 14.6 volts for a period of time sufficient to bring the battery so that the amperage that it receives drops down to 2 amps, and at that point is considered fully charged. And the battery management system manages all that. So, so it is totally possible to charge up while you're driving.
Good stuff. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Dave. Dave Fielder.
Yeah, Dave, this is a great presentation. My question is regarding the electrical knowledge and savvy that you need to put one of these things together. I guess a few of us lay people can put an Anderson pole together. But did you buy the schematics, or did you find those online, or did you have that knowledge to put it together yourself? It looks a little complicated for the local person like myself.
Actually, it's not too bad. The little meter is probably the most complicated part of it, and it comes with a sticker on the back that shows you exactly how to wire it. And I think there's a good schematic on Chad Sullivan's website, Patriot Astro, but I could also furnish my schematic. It's pretty scrappy, but I'd be very happy to copy it and send it to you.
Oh,
and
wonderful, thank you.
The difference between his battery box and mine is that I wanted all the stuff on a panel under the lid, and he opened up the lid and poked holes in it and put all his inputs and outputs and stuff through the lid. And I thought, well, you know, I've seen so much dew and rain and things when we've been out that I didn't want to spoil the waterproofness of it. So I put those holes on the side and left the lid intact and put a panel inside, and handles all that really well. I think it's a good configuration, actually.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Super informative. That's one that affects a lot of folks. So that'll be very helpful, I think, for them. I'd also just make mention that these meetings are recorded, so and will be posted on the Edmonton RASC YouTube channel. So if you want to have a look again at what Dave's done there, or his parts list, that type of thing, it would be available on there as well. Okay, so let's just keep going here. So we have one more presenter on the list to go here. Sorry, one more. We have a couple more yet. So I think everyone knows Jasper Dark Sky Festival was a go this year. And so the Jasper Dark Sky committee managed to pull things together. And this year, Marion Hobbs, sorry, is going to represent the committee and give us a little presentation on how that went. So over to you, Marion.
Thanks, Jay. Well, our part of the 2021 Jasper Dark Sky Festival ran from the 22nd of October to the 24th on that weekend.
Just need the screen.
Oh, do we have the ability to share the screen here?
If Dave could give back, oh yeah, there it is. There we go.
All right, thanks. So the organizing committee members are Chris and Monica Mirabeld and Alan and myself. And we were assisted quite graciously by Jay, who has the decade of experience behind him. For us neophytes, we had lots of questions for him. He helped us out. The participants this year were Abdur Anwar and Nakia Jansen, Arnold and Sonia Rivera, Berta Beltran and Karsten Kraus, Chris and Monica Mirveld, Jay Lavender and Daisy Alvarez, John Stolte and Sukrit Alawalia, and Rick and Susan Bram, as well as Alan and myself. Things were a little different this year with the COVID precautions, and proof of vaccination was required at all the events. There were no shuttles, which meant that we weren't able to go to Lake Annette, which is our usual spot for the evening observations. So we used Commemoration Park in town instead. We had only one night this year, since there was other events happening on the Saturday at the park. And we had 2 solar observing events on the Saturday and Sunday at the Jasper Information Center on the lawn there. We only had 8 astronomical spots for the astronomers and their partners, and we usually have about 10 to 12 of them. So on the Friday afternoon, we had a forecast of 100% expectation of rain. We met at the park to decide, do we set up? Don't we? We decided that we would, but not as planned. The clouds precluded actual observing. There was a covered stage available, and we set up 3 telescopes and binoculars on a tripod there. We had a table for giving out sets of our space object trading cards, planispheres and the moon information cards, and tables for viewing 3D pictures of Mars, which Rick had put together, and a book with astrophotos and solar photos and information about about the photos. As well, we had various devices with astrophotos on them, as John has there in that photo. Despite heavy clouds, the rain held off, and we estimated about 50 or maybe more people came out. We thought the scopes would at least be able to focus on the tea house light up on the mountain, but that proved to be impossible as the clouds lowered right down and blanked that right out as well. The moon did show for a couple of minutes, but not long enough to view. So we didn't really have any views, but the people that showed up were very interested in the equipment and in the pictures and the information, and good conversations were had about things astronomical. It was felt quite successful in spite of everything. On Saturday morning, we set up at the Information Center lawn. It was cloudy, but with blue patches, and we were optimistic that at least some of the sun would be seen. And we did have about 10 or 15 minutes, but that was about it. The clouds lowered down again, and the same backup then as Friday night filled the gap, and a good time was had again. And we think around 100 to 150 people stopped by on Saturday. After the packing up, some of us went to a talk which debated the future of space exploration and the possibility of colonization of the moon and Mars, which was quite interesting. Then we had a group dinner after, followed group dinner with, as always, good food at the Alba restaurant and good company. In the evening after that, there was a drone show with colored lights making patterns in the sky, and it went with a story and music from a band in the park that we had been in on Friday night. That was quite lovely. Sunday dawned and we had finally a mostly clear sky. Solar scopes and telescopes with white light filters got a good workout. Bert also brought a spectrometer from the U of A, which she and Karsten and Chris demonstrated. Jay, Abder, and Arnold and Rick all used monitors to show to a live feed with boxes to shade the screens. Rick set up allowed phone photos to be shot by the participants or by the guests. We estimated that 250 or more people came through that day. We packed up shortly after 2 o'clock, took our group photos, debriefed a bit, and started homeward. Here we are with our masks to commemorate the unusual circumstances of this festival. And then there we are, unmasked. I think we all felt that the effort was well worth it, and we are looking forward to hopefully clearer skies next year. So thanks to Daisy, Rick and Susan and Nakia for the photos, and all the participants for making the event a success. Are there any questions?
Well, that was a job well done, I have to say, to the whole committee there. So it was under pretty trying times. The whole pandemic, of course, made things extremely difficult. And of course, inclement weather it's never helped, but it was still, I would say, a success for sure. So I think it was a job well done by that whole committee. So
thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
So I see Florin has his hand raised there. Florin, did you have a question?
Oh, more of a comment. Actually, I wanted to say that I've been working on the reimbursement checks for the volunteers who participated in the event. And so far, Jay's is the exemplary one that everybody should look up to, because he carefully lists the GST separately. And that is so important because we get half of that GST back from CRA. And so I have to keep track of those pennies. So just for the future, if you have any questions or concerns about how to do that in an absolutely marvelous way, Jay is your man. Thank you.
I will add that GST.
I didn't mean to embarrass you, Jay, but that's, you know.
Thanks. Mission accomplished though, Florin, though. Thank you. Okay, fair enough. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments for Marion?
Quick comment. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, go
Just
ahead.
wanted to say thank you to Alan and Marion for doing all of this. We had a great time, and it was a great hit. So thank you.
You're welcome. And Mirvels were instrumental as well, of course.
Definitely. Yeah.
Betcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's keep going then. So our next presenter is Clayton Knoll. We had observed the moon night on the 16th of October. And so Clayton and a few other folks braved the cold and went out to the observatory there and did a live feed. And Clayton has a little video he'd like to show us from that night. Over to you, Clay.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, so we did about 2 hours of video, but I'm not going to show you the full 2 hours. A lot of it was dead air and bad seeing that night. But we did get, I cut this down to about 14 minutes of usable video that we saw the moon. We even popped in on Jupiter and Saturn for a few minutes each. And we had a running commentary play-by-play by Jeff. So here we go, see what it looks like.
Yikes. We're getting some cloud activity, it looks like. We'll work on the focus here. It's about as good as it's getting. Yeah, we've got some cloud. Well,
The audio coming through?
The atmosphere is Yep. Shivering in advance of the first rain that we are going to have.
We broadcast this on Zoom, and there was about a dozen people watching. We were using the, I think of the 7-inch refractor at the deck.
Okay, I see the scope moved a little bit. If you go directly and slightly to the right of Tycho, there are two fairly large craters. The one directly below, yeah, he's trying to center it right now. Okay, yeah, the one pretty much in the center of the screen, that is Clavius, which is one of the largest craters we can see on the near side of the moon. It's a very old crater. You can see that part of its wall has collapsed from impacts that came down after the crater was formed. So that crater is billions of years old. As I say, it's one of the largest craters we can see on the moon's near side. Is 231 kilometers across and about 3.5 kilometers deep. At its, yeah, I see there's an arrow pointed there. At its deepest point. There we go. And sticking with the theme of 2001, for those of you familiar with the movie, that is where the American moon base is. It's inside that crater. Okay, if we were looking at the moon, we would be looking on the left side near the terminator, the line between light and dark. Yes, it's just been marked. That dark crater there is Plato, and it's on the northern shore of Mare Imbrium, Sea of Rains. Although it doesn't get much rain in the Sea of Rains. It's a relatively old crater. It's about 3.84 billion years old, and it stands out because it seems to be darker than the surrounding terrain around it, caused by flooding of lava material, which filled up its floor after the initial crater was formed. A crater that, it's 101 kilometers across, and currently it's about 1.5 kilometers deep. Surely a crater that size, when it was formed, would have had a central peak, but likely the impact that formed one of the seas probably flooded the crater floor, which gives us its dark color. Off to the right of the picture is the Bay of Rain, Sinusit Iridium, or Bay of Rainbows, I should say. And along the edge there is a mountain range, the Jura Mountains, which is really a crater rim from the impact that formed the Bay of Rainbows. Well, in this overexposed image, you can see the cursor circling two little spots there. Those are, there we go, two moons of Jupiter. I will look up. Oh, and there's one way in the top corner of the screen. I'm going to look up to see which ones we're seeing. So hang on a sec. Closer of the two closest to the planet is Europa, and the one immediately to the right and above is Io, and the one at the top of the screen is Ganymede. And if we had a wider view further out, would be Callisto. So all 4 of the big Galilean moons are visible tonight, and they're all on the same side of the planet at this current time. So you're not only observing our moon, you're observing, in this picture anyway, 3 of Jupiter's moons. I see they're trying to move the camera right now. A little more, a little more. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, I can't see it, but information.
Just rotating it there. Right there. Close, that's close to the diagonal line. There, you can see it.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, right on the edge of the screen there. You got all 4 of them there. So not just one moon, but 5 altogether.
5 objects.
And all of the Galilean moons are fairly large. They're all about the same size or even larger than our own moon. If Ganymede was not orbiting Jupiter, if it was orbiting the sun, it would be considered a planet. It's actually bigger than Mercury.
But Jupiter captured it.
Or they formed at the same time as the planet. Jupiter itself has, at this point in time, 79 known moons. Most of them are very, very small. We refer to the 4 Galilean moons because they're easy to see in a small telescope or in a very steadily held pair of binoculars. Jupiter itself is 140,000 kilometers in diameter, and it is approximately 800 million kilometers from Earth. It's the largest planet in the solar system, and it has more mass than everything else in the solar system, excluding the sun, combined. Well, I've seen worse.
Yeah.
That looks okay. Not too bad.
You can see the rings anyway.
Well, you can see this gap between the rings too.
Yeah, you can even see the gap between the rings.
Yeah.
Jeff Rob. Oh,
I'm just trying to tweak it here a little bit. There we go. I think that's the best we're going to get it.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so there's Saturn, second largest planet in the solar system, and it's approximately 116,000 kilometers in diameter. The rings are 270,000 kilometers across. It's approximately 1.4 billion kilometers from here. and has an orbital period. A year of Saturn is 29.4 years, or a lot of people just round it up to 30 years for one orbit around Saturn. That's probably why when Holst wrote his Planet Suite, he called the song for Saturn, Saturn, the bringer of old age. Because at that time, a lot of people, well, even in today's time, you don't really see too many years of Saturn. The early 20th century, imagine 2 Saturn years was your average lifetime, 60 years. Its day is quick, just like Jupiter, 10.6 hours for one rotation. And it is the record holder for the amount of moons in our solar system. It has 82 known moons at this time. Currently, there is no probe exploring Saturn, the Cassini probe, which orbited Saturn for a number of years. Its mission ended a few years back. They directed it to go into the atmosphere and burn up, so as to not, in some distant date, accidentally collide with one of the 82 moons and possibly contaminate it with Earth stuff. 3 other probes have flown past Saturn. Pioneer 11 was the very first one. After it visited Jupiter in the early 70s, it looped around the planet and actually flew almost completely across the solar system to intercept Saturn and give us our first close-up look at the planet. And then following Voyagers 1 and 2, who used the gravity of Jupiter to fling them on toward Saturn. After Voyager 1 encountered Saturn, it was directed up above the plane of the solar system. Voyager 2 used Saturn's gravity to fling itself toward Uranus, which in turn flung itself to Neptune. So far, Uranus and Neptune have only been visited by one probe, and that was Voyager 2 in 86 for Uranus and 89 for Neptune. So that's about all I got for Saturn right now. There's a crater there whose rim is being illuminated by the sunlight. Oh, now you're increasing the gain. Spoil the effect. But you can see peaks and valleys illuminated by the sunlight. The sun is just rising on that area there. So that's all. It just looked kind of cool when you were moving it originally.
Okay,
That's all.
but now we'll let you see what it is. Yeah.
I'm trying to identify it here.
You definitely see that mountain in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So that was briefly what we went through on the 16th. There was myself and Jay and Mike Noble showed up, and Frank Florian was also there. So keeping with the lunar theme, on November 18th, weather permitting, and we have some clear skies, we will be back at the observatory covering the lunar eclipse, which I get sometime around midnight to begin, somewhere in that time frame. So it'll be the night of the 18th, morning of the 19th, that we will be putting a Zoom call out on that again. So we'll have that up on the website shortly to what the link will be if anybody wants to join us. Otherwise, it will be recorded, and for the sleepy people, they can watch it during the next day.
Yeah, the penumbral part starts 11-ish on the 18th, and then the partial starts after midnight on the 19th. And peak eclipse is at, I think it's 2:02 in the morning.
Okay, good stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Clayton, and thanks, Jeff, for narrating throughout that night as well. That was really helpful for the whole experience, I think. So, okay, so last but definitely not least, I thought it'd be a great way to wind up the member presentations tonight with a little music video that Orla has put together. And so Orla, I have given you co-host privileges. You should be able to share your screen. And if you do have sound coming from your computer, you'll have, I think there's a box you need to check or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, I've got, it's a video I put together, so I'm not sure how the sound is going to come through. But I'll just give a brief here preamble, so put things in perspective. But the book, for those of you who don't really know my background, I've been a member of the RSC I haven't been around for a while, but for a good part of my life, I've taught physics, mostly at the university level. Somewhere around the Middle Ages, that is my Middle Ages, I guess, I decided to try my hand at research, and somehow I managed to obtain a PhD in astrophysics. I never managed to become well known as an astrophysicist, so you won't be able to look up many papers that I've published or things that I've accomplished. But to become a good astrophysicist, you either have to be, I found out, you either have to be very lucky or you have to be very smart. In any case, sorry, my voice is a little hoarse tonight. Early in life, around grade 10, my brother bought me a guitar, and after learning a few major and minor chords, I started writing songs. Somewhere in the early 80s, I worked at the Calgary Centennial Planetarium, as it was called back then, which is where I wrote my first song on science or astronomy song. It was called My Flying Machine, and it was, I thought it would be a great planetarium theme song. Since then, I've assembled several other songs in science, mostly astronomy songs, but also one or two on other things like Newtonian mechanics and computer science. Tonight, I was going to present my song Contact, which I wrote in 1984, written a few years before the movie. But there's a video presentation embedded in the video itself, and I'm not really sure it's going to play properly. So I'm going to rather play for you one of my astronomy video songs called Pulsar, which I've been working on for a couple of days now, updating the images and the music itself. So I thought I'd just throw that up on the screen. So while you guys are busy taking great astrophotographs, I'm busy surfing the internet, borrowing your images and sticking them in my music video without permission. For the most part, I have little links to where I found the images, but in going over the one I want to show tonight, I realized that some of those images are no longer on the internet. I've also, instead of showing the PowerPoint, I'm going to show it as an MP4. I've exported it from PowerPoint to MP4, so it might play a little bit better. And just a warning, this is not, I'm not a great vocalist or instrumentalist. I strum away at the guitar. I don't have a sophisticated recording equipment, just my laptop. And my video software is really just limited to PowerPoint. So I've also not presented this before, a video with sound, so I'm not sure. You're gonna have to let me know if you can hear the sound or not. I'm gonna bring up the video. I don't know if you guys, oh, wait a minute, I gotta share my screen, I guess.
Yep, you have to share.
Okay, so I'm gonna press share. I think about it every time when I look at the moon. I wonder if you think about it, if there is any room. I wonder why we're here, concerned that you do not, saddened by the fact I know, regretting it a lot. When I gaze up at the night, I look into your eyes. Deep inside I feel torn, we don't seem to agree in which direction we should point, like a lighthouse on the sea. We're in some kind of universe, an everlasting bond that even lovers dream about. If it was up to me, I would cry forever, send my tears into the universe. I hear you calling endlessly, your message stays the same, the rapid beating of your heart like a magnetized machine. Long ago it was said that it would end this way. The law of gravity will apply until our dying day. If it was up to me, I would cry forever, send my tears into the universe. I gaze up at the night, I look into your eyes. I think about you every time when I look at the moon. I wonder if you think about me, if there is any room. We're in some kind of universe, an everlasting bond that even lovers dream about. When I gaze up at the night, I look into your eyes. We are dancing in the night, it's been going on forever. Dancing to our own delight, it wasn't meant for you. We are dancing in the night. We are dancing in the night. We are dancing in the night. Okay. So now what?
You can end the share if you want, or
Yeah, if I can find it.
should be the red, right up at the top there. Yeah, you got it.
Oh, okay.
I
don't know
got
what
it for
did.
him.
Well, thanks.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic, Orla.
Oh, great.
Hey.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it.
Very cool.
I
Very
have 20.
cool.
Hello? Yeah, so I have about 22 more of those if anyone's interested.
Do you have a website or YouTube channel or somewhere where we can listen
Well,
to them, Orla?
I do have a YouTube channel. I played around with it some years ago and I posted some of my stuff there. There's if you just Google Aquist YouTube, I think you'll run across it. It's not really well out there. It's not really well known. I haven't promoted it. I just wanted to see what it would take to get something up on YouTube. I'm actually planning to take some of them down because I'm in retirement here. I'm working on them to try and update the images and a little bit, but yeah. If you wanted to, just Google Aquist and YouTube, and there's a channel there somewhere. I'm not sure exactly how to
Awesome.
get
Yeah,
to
we'll
it
find
myself
it.
sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Fantastic, Ro. Thank you. Okay. So on that note, we'll hand it over to Jeff Robertson for his monthly news from space.
Thanks, Jay, and thanks, Ro. That was great. I don't know how I can follow that up. Oh, am I a co-host? Jay? No? No, I'll share the screen and see what happens.
Sorry about that, Jeff. Yep, you are.
Okay, all right. Share sound, flash video. Okay. All right. So the teletype's been really busy ringing constantly this month. So this is a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but we've dragged Walter Winchell's dumber cousin out of retirement once more to give you news from space.
NASA's newest asteroid probe, named Lucy, blasted off from the Kennedy Space Center, Florida, beginning a 12-year mission to study 2 different clusters of asteroids around Jupiter, known as Trojans. These swarms represent the final unexplored region of asteroids in the solar system. Perched atop the Atlas V rocket, originally intended to launch Boeing's problem-plagued Starliner, the refrigerator-sized spacecraft leapt off the launch pad Saturday, October 16th. Just under 2 hours after launch, Lucy's 2 24-foot wide solar arrays were deployed. However, mission team members determined that one of the spacecraft's 2 huge solar arrays had not fully deployed. Readings show it is between 75 and 95% deployed. Lucy's handlers have been working hard on the problem, but it remains unsolved at this time. Sunlight is about 25 times weaker in the realm of the Trojans than what we experience here on Earth, so Lucy needs huge solar rays to soak it up. Lucy's problems echoes back to another spacecraft a generation ago, Galileo, whose high-gain antenna failed to unfold properly, resulting in controllers rewriting the mission plan to use the low-gain antenna to return the data. Lucy will spend the next 6 years cruising through the solar system, looping around the Earth twice in order to build up enough momentum to reach Jupiter. The spacecraft will fly by a total of 8 different asteroids, 7 Trojans, which are located in 2 separate swarms ahead and behind the massive planet Jupiter, and 1 main belt asteroid. Lucy will study the geology, composition, density, and structure of each of its targets.
standing there alone.
The greatest actor Canada ever produced, William Shatner, blasted into space on October 16th.
Has the evidence.
Riding in a Blue Origin spacecraft with 3 others, Shatner, at the age of 90, rocketed 107 kilometers above the Earth, making him the oldest person to fly into space.
Relax. Up in the capsule. Send me up a drink. Jokes Major Tom. The count goes on.
Lifting off into the clear Texas sky, the flight proceeded perfectly.
Earth below us. Drifting, falling, floating.
Shatner is known for iconic roles in The Twilight Zone, Barbary Coast, T.J. Hooker, Boston Legal, Miss Congeniality, and Showtime.
This
guy
every Friday night at 8. is the worst actor ever seen.
But it is his role in Star Trek as Captain James T. Kirk, for which he is most famous.
When all is done, thinks Major Tom.
For a few minutes, the 4-person crew experienced microgravity and fantastic views of our home planet.
Are you receiving? Turn the thrusters on. We're standing by. There's no reply. Earth below us, drifting, falling, floating.
But too soon, the flight reached its conclusion, landing by parachute on the desert floor.
Below us, drifting, falling, floating, windless, calling home. Across the stratosphere, a final message. Give my wife my love, then nothing more.
Emerging from the craft, Shatner was overcome by his experience.
He's alive. No one understands. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, you know, the little things of weightlessness. But to see the blue cover go whoop by, and now you're staring into blackness. That's the thing. The covering of blue, this sheet, this blanket, this comforter of blue that we have around us. We think, oh, that's blue sky. And then suddenly you shoot through it all of a sudden, as though you whip off a sheet off you when you're asleep, and you're looking into blackness, into black ugliness. And you look down, and there's the blue down there, and the black up there, and it's just, there is Mother and Earth and comfort, and is there death? I don't know. Is that death? Is that the way death is?
Amazon founder and president of Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos, was on hand at the landing to remind Shatner that spaceflight does not come cheap. And so, Shatner is working at an Amazon warehouse for the foreseeable future in order to pay for the flight. The many probes on and around Mars are back in contact with Earth, following Mars coming out of solar conjunction. Prior to the conjunction, controllers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory were fearful the plucky Ingenuity helicopter was grounded for good following an attempted flight September 18th. Problems in the servo motors, which adjust the pitch of the rotors, allowing the craft to control its orientation and position during flight, signaled the problem, and the onboard computer aborted the flight. Controllers have resolved the problem, and Ingenuity flew a 14th time. As summer has arrived in the Jezero crater, temperatures are getting warmer, lowering the atmospheric density. The aircraft's rotors must turn faster to achieve flight. The latest flight for the Mars helicopter on October 27th was a short and simple hop to test flying with higher rotor speeds, 2,700 RPM rather than the usual 2,537. NASA's helicopter successfully demonstrated its ability to fly in summer weather conditions on Mars. Also in Jezero Crater, the Perseverance rover continues to work. Following conjunction, the rover sent back spectacular pictures of its surroundings. A video was also returned showing Perseverance traversing 167 meters using its auto navigation systems. Elsewhere on Mars, a recording of strange sounds was received from the InSight lander. Its onboard microphones picked these up. What could it be?
At last, after 2,000 years of work, the Illudium Q-36 explosive space modulator.
I don't think so. To this reporter, it sounds like a steam heating system on the fritz. So it's probably thermal expansion and contraction of the spacecraft itself. Russia's Soyuz MS-19 lifts off from the Baikonur Space Center on October 5th, destined for the International Space Station. The Soyuz carries a most unusual crew.
49-year-old Russian cosmonaut Anton Shkaplerov about to begin his fourth flight into space, flanked on his left aboard the Soyuz by 38-year-old film producer-director Klim Shipenko, and on his right by 37-year-old actress Yulia Peresild.
Peresild and Shipenko are along to film part of a scripted movie in space. The first time this has been done. The movie, whose working title is The Challenge, is about a surgeon who has to perform a life-saving operation on a cosmonaut. Over 4 months, Peresild and Shipenko received a crash course in being a cosmonaut and were required to learn technical parts of the Soyuz rocket and emergency procedures. After entering orbit, the Soyuz caught up to the ISS and later docked. Soon after, the hatch was open and the 3 crew members floated on board the station. Other cosmonauts on board assisted and acted as part of the film crew, since production resources were more limited in the space environment. Their stay was not without some real-life drama, as a scheduled thruster firing test of the Soyuz spacecraft, while it was still docked with the space station, continued unexpectedly after the test was scheduled to end. This resulted in a loss of orientation control for the space station. It was not part of the script. On October 17th, the filmmaker and actress left the International Space Station. After retro fire, they landed in Kazakhstan to be met by a crew filming the touchdown scenes. Russia had announced plans for the space movie in September 2020, 4 months after it was reported that NASA and SpaceX were partnering to make a movie aboard the ISS with Tom Cruise. The timing around that film and whether that project will still proceed is unclear. The Joint European Space Agency Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency mission Bepi Colombo made a flyby of Mercury October 1st. This flyby used Mercury's gravity to alter its flight path. It previously has made flybys of Venus twice and Earth once to perform gravity assist maneuvers. The probe will orbit Mercury in December 2025. In December 2020, China's Chang'e 5 spacecraft managed to return 1.73 kilograms of moon rock from the oceans of storms. Since then, scientists have begun a bevy of experiments to understand the rocks. A new study reports 2 tiny pieces of the newly returned lunar rock have been dated to about 1.97 billion years old, give or take 50 million years. It is the perfect sample to close a 2 billion year gap, Brad Jolioff, a planetary scientist at Washington University in St. Louis, said in a statement. The age of these samples is also important because they're a type of rock called basalt, which forms during volcanic eruptions. Scientists previously only had evidence of lava flowing on the moon up until about 3 billion years ago. Jupiter's red spot, a vast storm that's lasted for hundreds of years, is shaped like a pancake, floating amid the clouds of the gas giant's outer atmosphere, and doesn't reach deep down into its interior, according to new research on data from NASA's Juno space probe. 2 new studies in the journal Science give the first accurate estimation of the depth of the Great Red Spot, and show that while it's deeper than expected, it doesn't extend far into the planet's atmosphere as once theorized. Instead, it's shaped like a thin lens over 16,000 kilometers wide. It's much wider than it is deep, like a pancake. The study determined that the bulk of the Great Red Spot extends no deeper than about 500 kilometers below its visible surface. The space probe has been in orbit around Jupiter since 2016, evaluating its chemical composition, measuring its gravitational and magnetic fields, and taking photographs of the planet and its many moons, 79 at last count. Finally, Boeing announced October 27th it has taken an additional $185 million charge against its earnings to cover the costs to get its Starliner commercial crew vehicle flying again. Boeing had planned to perform an uncrewed test flight in early August, but scrubbed a launch hours before the scheduled liftoff when valves in the spacecraft's propulsion system failed to open. Engineers found that 13 valves were stuck shut, most likely when nitrogen tetroxide propellant seeped through the valves and mixed with moisture from the humid Florida air, creating nitric acid and corroding the valves. Boeing's chief executive, David Calhoun, said, "We are currently working toward opportunities for a second orbital test flight launch in 2022, pending hardware readiness, the rocket manifest, and space station availability."
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Another great production. Tell you, they just keep getting better and better.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Betcha.
Well,
Sounds
hopefully November isn't so busy. I had to leave some stuff out because it was just getting too long. So
Yeah, pretty informative, that's for sure. So
I'm
thanks.
trying to
Thanks.
be accurate, which I tend to be a bit wordy explaining stuff, but
It's okay. I think it's a great balance of good information and even entertainment. So
okay,
great job.
Thanks.
Okay, let's just keep going. I'll hand it over to Abdur for Astro Imaging Corner.
Thanks, Jay. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Nope, can't share yet. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you should be good.
Awesome, thank you. Okay. Awesome, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Sounds good. Let's make that full screen. Okay, so welcome to Astro Imaging Corner number 114. And for anyone who might be joining us for the first time today, Astro Imaging Corner is the part of the program where I share images that members have sent in. So it can be images, videos, time lapse, deep sky, whatever you want to share with us. And you can find the link for that on the RASC Edmonton website on the left there. And you can also send them to astroimagingcorner@edmontonrasc.com or send them to me directly via Facebook or email or whatever you choose. So our first image for tonight is from Alan Hobbs. This is the aurora at zenith. Alan shot this at Black Nugget Lake Observatory on November 4th. And this was shot with a Canon 6D with a 14mm f2.8 Rokinon lens. And this one and the next couple of aurora images are 5-second exposures. And Alan says it was a fantastic display that covered the entire sky. So yeah, definitely. You can see the Pleiades right up there as well. So great shot, Alan. And this is another shot from Alan from the same night. And right down there, you can see the new observatory at Black Nugget Lake. And another one from Alan. And you can see the really, really bright knot in the aurora over there. And you can see some of the reds and purple colors. And this one is overlooking Alan's RV. And you can see the RV, and I think that's a tent down there. Beautiful shot. Oh, and right there, it's Orion rising right above the horizon there. And the last one over here, this is looking southeast. And you can see that bright pink aurora lower down just above the horizon there. So another great shot. Thank you very much for sharing, Alan. And one more from Alan. So this is the deep sky image. So this is the, I forgot to change the title on that one. That's the Elephant's Trunk Nebula. And this one was taken on Alan's driveway in Edmonton under Bortle 8 skies with a waxing moon of 79% illumination. And this was taken with the RASA 8 and the ASI 2600 MC camera with an Optolong L-enhanced filter. And Alan was using the Skywatcher EQ6R mount. And the Elephant's Trunk Nebula was processed in PixInsight and Photoshop. And up next, we have a video from Arnold Rivera. This is from his all-sky camera showing the aurora. And I will, oh, there we go. We'll just play that one again. There we go. Yep. Oh, wow. Quite a few bright flashes there. Very nice. Thanks for sharing, Arnold. Up next, we have an image from Dave Mussel. This is the Iris Nebula in GC 7023. And this was captured over 3 nights at the end of October, and it includes 12 hours of total integration time. And Dave says he wanted to get enough information to reveal the dark dust clouds surrounding the reflection nebula at the center. And Dave says he uses usual tools, the QHY 163 and the Explore Scientific 127 ED APO refractor, as well as the field flattener. And Dave was using the Oplong L-Enhance filter and the Skywatcher AZEQ6 mount, and everything was controlled through Nina and processed in PixInsight. So you definitely got those dark dust clouds around the iris. So great job, Dave. And it does look 3D. Okay, up next, we've got another awesome image from Yusuf Hussain, and this is the double cluster in Cassiopeia. And this one was shot using LRGB filters from Yusuf's backyard on October 8. And this is a total of 2 hours over all 4 filters, using 3-minute sub-exposures for the colors and 2 minutes for the luminance. And as usual, Yusuf was using the Skywatcher Esprit ED 120 and the ASI 6200 monochrome camera. And in this case, everything was controlled through, oh, I moved a little too quickly. So everything was processed in PixInsight, and it was all controlled with Voyager and PhD2. And the next image over here is a close-up of the center of the double cluster there. So you can see those very, very nice red supergiants in the cluster. The 2 in the center over here are my go-to for colorful supergiant stars. So very nice shot. And this one from Yusuf, this is Abell 85, also called a pop balloon or garlic nebula. I've rarely seen pictures of this object before because it is extremely faint, but Yusuf says they wanted to try something a little bit more challenging this month. And he read about this target in Cassiopeia, and it was originally cataloged as a planetary nebula until it was later reclassified as a supernova remnant in the 1970s. And Abell 85 is approximately 9,800 light years away and physically spans another 98 light years in diameter. And it's dated to be approximately 10,000 years old. And Yusuf said he was able to capture this target by following the recommendation to use 30-minute exposure times. And yeah, that is quite amazing. You were able to get perfect stars at 30-minute individual exposures. And the total exposure time for this one was 18 hours, so 10 hours in hydrogen alpha and 8 hours in O3. And the scope, as usual, was the ED 120 Skywatcher refractor and the 6200 mm full frame camera. Up next, we have an image from Ray. And this one is from Blackfoot Lake staging area. This is the aurora that we had a little while ago. And next image from Ray as well. This is NGC 891. And this image was taken over 2 nights using a William Optics 132 at f9. And Ray was using a full frame QHY 367 camera. And this was processed in Lightroom, and Ray used 8 5-minute exposures, 8 300-second exposures, and 10 360-second exposures. So great job, Ray. There we go. Okay, our next shot is from Josephine. This is the aurora. This one was taken with a Nikon D750 and a wide-angle 20mm f2 lens. And this was taken at 9:50 p.m. on November 3rd. Yeah, it looks really, really nice there with the clouds in the foreground as well. And this is another one from Josephine. This is actually a video from her Wyze 3 security camera. And this was shot between 12:48 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. And this has all been compressed down to, from about 6 hours down to 3 minutes. Oh, I'm gonna go back here and play that video. There we go. Oh, it looks like I'm having some trouble playing this video. I will have to fix this and include this in next time. Sorry, Josephine. Our next image here is from Warren Finlay. This is the Moon and Venus. And you can see Venus just right over there and the crescent of the moon right being engulfed by the clouds over there. Thank you, Warren. Our next shot here is from Alistair Lane. This is the Moon, Mercury, and Spica. And this was shot Wednesday morning, November 3rd. And you can see Mercury just underneath the moon above, and then Spica is just off to the right there. It's quite faint in this picture. Alistair shot this with a Canon 5D Mark III and a 70 to 200 millimeter telephoto lens. And this was processed slightly to suppress noise and make Mercury and Spica better approximate what the eye sees. And over here as well, you can see Mercury and Spica, and easier to see Spica in this image, right on the right, Mercury's on the left, and the crescent moon just above both of them there. And this was with a 70 to 200 millimeter telephoto lens. Up next, we have an image of a wide angle image of Comet 67P from Alistair Lane. I can't quite identify the nebula underneath, but that is has a lot going on in this picture. Beautiful shot and really nice processing there, Alistair. And Alistair actually imaged this one from suburban Edmonton with a waxing gibbous moon at the time. And Alistair was using the IDAS LD3 broadband filter on his Canon 5D Mark III. And this is a combination of 22 3-minute images with the ASCAR 40 millimeter lens. Up next, we have an image from Kent Martins, and this is the Crab Nebula. And Kent said he'd been away from imaging for a few months, but he upgraded his mount to something heavier, bought a one-shot color camera, and started working with 2 new software packages. And I really like the star colors here and all the tendrils of gas around the Crab Nebula. And this is one of the most interesting objects visible in the sky to us, in my opinion. Just the pulsar in the center spinning at 30 times per second. The fact that it's a supernova remnant, and the ancients saw the supernovas in our skies not that long ago. Quite amazing. And next we have some images from Bruce McCurdy. This is an image he took during NLC season, and this one was taken on the night of June 27th and 28th at 70 millimeter focal length. And this was a 1 second exposure, nicely showing the structure in the NLC there. And this one was taken just a few minutes later at 300 millimeters. And this is a 4 second exposure at f5.6 on ISO 2000. So again, you can see the very, very nice structure near the bottom. There's some waves going on there. So thank you for sharing, Bruce. And up next, we have this image from the Northern Lights. And they're stretching from the horizon all the way up through zenith. And this was a huge aurora swirl that Bruce says took on the shape of a giant horseshoe that kept expanding right through the zenith. And this was a 2 second exposure with the northern horizon at the bottom, where the bright question mark shape feature is. And the wires are a little past zenith up at the top. And the bright star just above dead center is Polaris. And Bruce was using a 15 millimeter fisheye lens for this image. And next we have another image from Bruce. This is showing looking straight up at zenith and southwards. So you can see the aurora covering the zenith, and then you can see the constellation of Orion rising just off the horizon over here. And this used the same lens and used a 2.5 second exposure. So that tells you just how bright the aurora were. If a 2.5 second exposure is showing them this bright and covering the entire sky. So thanks for sharing, Bruce. Up next, we have an image from Rick Bram, or actually a couple of images. So Rick says that we were treated to another beautiful auroral display on the night of November 3rd, early morning of November 4th. And Rick says that he was in town. They were in town, but tried to make the best of it. And the attached photos were from their backyard and the local park. So there was lots of light pollution to contend with. And Rick was using a Canon EOS RA camera and shooting at ISO 6400. And the exposure times were 1 to 2 seconds, which is short enough to avoid smearing of rapidly evolving features in the aurora. And Rick was using a Canon EF 24 to 105 millimeter lens and a Rokinon 14 millimeter f2.8 lens for this and the next couple of images. and they were processed in Adobe Photoshop. And the next image over here, this one looks almost a little bit like Steve, but this isn't Steve. This is just a bright knot in the aurora itself. And this is looking up towards zenith. You can see very, very nice colors there. You can see the Pleiades peeking right through near the bottom left. And this is another one. Very, very nice colors. You can see all the greens and purples and reds. So thank you very much for sharing, Rick. And up next, this is a time lapse that I took recently of Comet 67P. And this was over a period of about 2 hours using my 8-inch reflector and ASI 1600 camera. So I was just taking black and white frames, 60-second frames. And right there, you can see the motion of Comet 67P against the background of stars. And it was moving at quite a clip. It just over 2 hours, it moved this entire distance. So I feel that in a high magnification eyepiece, you can probably notice movement over 5 to 10 minutes. Now you can start to see a little tail developing over here, but I'm going to try to image this in color next time with my DSLR, just so we can actually see some color. And this was one of my test images of the Andromeda Galaxy. I wanted to see if it was worth imaging it for real using my scope, since I was imaging at 800 millimeters, and I could get maybe 1/3 of the Andromeda Galaxy in the field of view. But I managed to get Andromeda and the 2 satellite galaxies over here as well. So I think it might be worth spending about 6-7 hours on it. This was a total of 1.5 hours of exposures. In relatively poor seeing, but I'm still very happy with how well the dust lanes showed up in this image. And you can see a hint of dust lanes in the smaller galaxy off to the right as well. And this was an object that I didn't really know about until I ran into it while looking through Stellarium. This is a very tiny nebula called the Fetus Nebula. I mean, it's just not too tiny for a planetary nebula, but pretty small compared to most other objects that I've imaged so far. And this is in the northern part of the constellation Cygnus, the Swan. And for this one as well, I was using my EQ6R mount and my Orion 8-inch reflector. And I used relatively short exposures. I believe I was using 30-second exposure for this one, but in total, I just did RGB frames and a total of 2 hours and 40 minutes of frames. So pretty happy with how this one turned out. You can see a good amount of structure inside the nebula as well. So I might try capturing some hydrogen alpha data for that at some point as well. This is just straight RGB combined. And lastly, this was my image of the Aurora Borealis that I took from my deck actually in the backyard over here. It was way too cloudy in Cochrane that night that the aurora storm happened. So I decided to go to bed instead. But for some reason, I jumped out of bed at 3:30 a.m. and just stumbled out to the deck. And I noticed that the aurora were in full swing, and it was coming most of the way up to zenith. So I went in and got my camera and took a couple of shots before I had to go back to bed right before work. So it turned out pretty well. I was able to see some colors there. So pretty happy with how that turned out. So that's all we have for tonight. Huge thank you to everyone who shared some images. And I'm hoping to see more from you guys next time. So thanks again. And I will pass it back to Jay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Abdur. And
Thanks, Jay.
thanks to everybody that's contributed to that. And please keep them coming. Those are some of the amazing images there. So, okay, we're running just a little bit long here. So just move into the final segment here of the meeting. I just had a few announcements. So one, little unorthodox, but usually we talk about the account balances at the beginning of the meeting, but I just wanted to make emphasis here that our current balances as of, I think it's approximately October 26th, and our general account was $63,203.72, and our casino account is $51,255.15. And I think everyone probably knows that, wow, those are not our normal numbers that we would see. And I don't think of my entire involvement with the RSC that I've ever seen more funds sitting in our general account than in our casino. And so I just wanted to make mention that is as a result of the generosity of one of our very long-term members and valued members, Bob Drew, who has, again, most generously given us a $25,000 donation to help see through to the completion of the BNLO telescope. So that's put us into a very positive financial situation. So thank you so much for that, Bob. And I would just like to really encourage everyone. Bob has written a very interesting article in this month's Stardust about a lot of his experience with telescope building, that sort of thing. And then after that, Tom Owen has also written up an article describing the situation with Bob's donation, that sort of thing. So I'd encourage everyone to please take a moment to give that a read. And thank you, Bob. So just a couple more announcements. November 10th, so that's this Wednesday, is our Observer Group meeting hosted by John Stolte. On November 17th is our Astro Cafe, and a very popular one on how to buy a telescope. So if you happen to know anyone that is considering owning a telescope, by all means, send them the link to our Astro Cafe hosted by Luca Vanzella. And November 24th is our Introduction to Stargazing and the Universe hosted by Alistair Ling. And again, a very informative meeting. So I encourage everyone to attend those. Any other announcements from anyone?
Jay Clayton here. Just to remind people that the evening of November 18th, morning of November 19th, weather permitting, we will be doing a Zoom call with the lunar eclipse.
Sounds good. So we'll be looking for that as well. Thanks, Clayton. Okay, if there's nothing else, just a reminder, next meeting is December 13th, where we'll have Dr. Patrick Cote from the National Research Council of Canada giving us a presentation on galaxies at the extremes and latest results from the Next Generation Virgo Cluster Survey. So that should prove to be very interesting as well. So if there's nothing else and no other announcements at all, then I will consider this meeting adjourned.